Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button if you guys are enjoying the content that we're throwing up. And make sure you guys hit the like button if you enjoy the video. And yeah, let's begin. What's going on, guys? This is Rob, and before we start this video, I do want to talk to you guys about TKO Studios. Now, this is not a brand deal, right? I'm not being paid to talk to you guys about this. The only reason why I'm really working with them, or at least why I'm advertising them, is because TKO Studios had this awesome idea called binge reading. Right? So imagine like Doomsday Clock, for example, for DC Comics, right? It took 3 years for a comic to come out when it was only supposed to take 12. But imagine if you got it all at one time. And that's what they're experimenting with, right? So, and those of you guys who are new to comic books, traditionally you get what are called floppies, right? Just the individual comics. And those will be released usually like once a month, depending on the publisher. Marvel will do it once a month. DC will do it twice a month, depending on the comic. It's what they did at the beginning of DC Rebirth. And the idea is that over the course of some period of time, you get 6 issues, which basically collect a volume, right? Usually 6 issues to a particular story arc. What TKO Studios is kicking around is the idea of, instead of saying that you have to wait 6 months to get all 6 issues, you just get them all at once. It's an awesome idea, right? Because I love being able to just sit and just binge through an entire story at once. I do it all the time now with stories that are finished. I love that idea. I do think that doing that kind of removes the suspense, right? Like the feeling you're being left on a cliffhanger and the excitement of like going and reading the new issue as soon as it comes out. I do believe it kind of kills that off, so I think that's a little bit of a lackluster thing, but they have ways to work around that. The long and short is you should go check them out, right? They're really kind of pitching a lot of these ideas that look like they will be the future of comics, I'd say in the next 5 years or so. So they're pretty solid, right? Make sure you guys check out Sentient. There's a whole bunch of others. They sent me all kinds of other books too, right? So they're awesome. Make sure you guys take a look. And yeah, let's talk about Maestro being too powerful for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Here's the thing about Maestro Hulk, right? Maestro Hulk is a guy who we in the comic book community refer to as broken. This guy is so OP, right? Now here's the funny thing. Here's the funny thing about this. I still say to this day that in Age of Ultron, we never found out what it was that Bruce Banner saw because Bruce Banner saw Maestro, and like they're gonna use him at a future point in time. I say this because here in the next week or two, at the time that we're recording this video, Marvel's releasing a one-shot comic on the origin of Maestro. There's no reason to do that, right? Maestro's been dead in Marvel Comics for a little while. He was killed by Old Man Logan, I think, so he's been gone for a while. I don't really see a means to bring him back unless they decide to yank him from the past again or something like that. The only reason I can think that they're going to be doing an origin story on Maestro is because we're going to get Maestro in the MCU. Now, why does that matter? Okay, the Maestro is a version of the Hulk that became popular during the events of Future Imperfect, during that storyline that was released by Peter David back in the 1990s. Future Imperfect dealt with a place called dystopia, right? And the idea was that at about 100 years into the future, or at least leading up to 100 years from now, society was going to engage in what was basically a nuclear holocaust, right? Like pretty much all life on Earth was going to be obliterated. Those survivors ended up taking residence in a place called dystopia, which was ruled by the Incredible Hulk. Now, the difference here is that Maestro possessed all the intelligence of Bruce Banner combined with all the strength of the Incredible Hulk. And the idea was that he had become increasingly stronger because of the fact that he had absorbed all this nuclear radiation. Now, it's important to understand how Hulk's power works, because this is something that's consistently misunderstood in comics across the board, right? At least by people who are non-comic readers or are not familiar with the Incredible Hulk. So if we say that like Bruce Banner gets angry and turns into the Hulk, right? So let's say that like somebody runs up on him and is like, "Hey, Hulk," and it's like what? It's like, "Your mama's so fat her blood type is ragu," right? He's just like, "Ah," like he hulks out and loses his mind, right? Like he destroys whoever that person is, and then he kind of goes forward from there. Say, for example, it takes no effort to kill that guy, right? Like all Hulk has to do is just like that. So we can say this is baseline Hulk, right? That's Hulk in his base anger level, right? That's as unangry as he could be, but still remain the Incredible Hulk. Now, his strength begins increasing proportional to his anger, right? So the angrier he gets, the stronger he gets, and there's no limit to how strong the Incredible Hulk can get. The strongest we ever saw him was during Greg Pak's run, which you'll find down in the description. You'll find the whole Greg Pak Incredible Hulk run, which is amazing. The strongest version of the Hulk that we saw was at the end of that run when we got Heart of the Monster Hulk, right? Where Bruce Banner found a wishing well, and he basically just ended up being transported to the realm of Dormammu, which is being ruled by his sister at the time, Umar, and literally it was him and She-Hulk were like just destroying the fabric of reality, fighting each other, right? Like it was stated during Doctor Strange, it was stated by Doctor Strange during that story that he was way beyond Worldbreaker at that point, right? I mean, it's just like this colossal hulking beast, right? It's just this massive thing. It's one of the coolest comic panels ever, right? He's just like, he's standing there just like, ah, you know, like it's amazing. But the idea here is that where Bruce Banner as the Incredible Hulk is at a certain level of strength when he's in his base form, Maestro's above that, right? So just in his base, you know, least angry form, Maestro's stronger than baseline Hulk. Now that's also important because during Future Imperfect, what you ended up getting was Rick Jones, who in the comics is a friend of Bruce Banner's, but at that point was like an old man who was more or less leading this kind of rebellion of sorts, and they actually ended up using the time platform of the villain Doctor Doom, basically a time machine device, to go back into the past and grab Professor Hulk. Now, Professor Hulk, you guys probably recognize him from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. In the comics, he's a combination of most of Bruce Banner's personalities, all kind of manifested into one. Well, really, I think it's just Grey Hulk and Savage Hulk, the Green Hulk, who merge into basically with Bruce Banner. And so it's Bruce Banner with his intelligence and all the powers of the Hulk without the infinite strength. And so because of that, they basically end up bringing Professor Hulk into Future Imperfect, and Maestro beats the crap out of him, right? Like a fight breaks out between the two of them. There is this funny moment when the Incredible Hulk shows up, and like Professor Hulk shows up and confronts Maestro, and he's like, I think he's either that or it's like some henchman or something, but he's like, gentlemen, you'll be pleased to know the doctor is in. But Professor Hulk, he goes to town on some villains, right? And then like Big Daddy Maestro steps up, and like Professor Hulk gets crushed. I mean, not even by a little bit either, right? He gets he gets it handed to him in the most insane way. And it's kind of cool, right? Because Maestro is just like this Hulk with like long hair, like long white hair. He's just enormous. He's got these cool little bead things around his neck. He looks like Akuma from Street Fighter. Like, it's awesome, right? And so anyway, he beats the living piss out of the Incredible Hulk and then like breaks his neck in the process, right? So Hulk's just like incapacitated. His recovery was like the greatest recovery ever, right? He's just like surrounded by beautiful women, you know, like tending to his every need. I don't know if he could feel anything, which would suck if that was the case, but nonetheless, like he's basically just kind of recovering. And Maestro is actually trying to bring him to his cause and saying that like humans deserve to be ruled over because they're weaker than us. A second fight breaks out, Hulk loses again. It's the thing about Maestro is at least Peter David explicitly stated he wanted Maestro to kind of be this insane future version of the Hulk. But Maestro ended up taking on his own personality, right? Where he was just like this kind of warlord, right? Like this kind of dictatorial warlord guy. And he was fun and he was cool to read about because he was the answer to the question, what would happen if one, the Incredible Hulk turned evil, and two, the Incredible Hulk was power hungry, right? Like just like power mad. What would that version of the Hulk look like? And that was Maestro. Now, you take that version of the Hulk and you throw him into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I can promise pretty much all of them would fall. The only person that I think could probably go toe-to-toe with Maestro Hulk, now that I think about it, would probably be Thanos, right? Because as far as I'm aware, I don't believe Maestro Hulk has infinite strength in the comics, right? I think his strength just kind of caps out at a certain point. I might be wrong about that. Honestly, it's been a long time since I read Maestro, but Thanos and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I mean, this guy was able to just decimate Hulk like by himself, right? Like by himself. Now, one thing to understand, the difference between the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the comics is that the characters in the MCU are scaled down by a huge margin, right? If you took Thanos from the comics and you put him in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, not only would he decimate the MCU version of Thanos, he would decimate the Avengers like that. Like I can't snap. There we go. Somebody snapped for me. He would decimate like the Avengers on Earth, right? Like Thanos in the comics is wildly powerful. I mean, you're talking about a guy who can manipulate cosmic energy. You're talking about a guy who technically can't die. He's had augmentations given to him by death. He fought Galactus to a standstill. I mean, that's the kind of Thanos you're talking about. Now his powers waxed and waned over the years, but nonetheless, it's not a Thanos video. It's a Maestro video. The Maestro is Hulk in the extreme, right? And it would be cool to know that during the events of Age of Ultron, that when the Scarlet Witch was manipulating Bruce Banner and she forced him to see himself, that he basically saw a point where humanity basically destroyed himself. And you kind of get this image of Maestro, because in my mind's eye, I imagine how this looks, right? That you have like I don't know, you have like you delve into the mind of Bruce Banner, right? Same way you got those flashbacks or those visions with like, you know, Captain America and Black Widow and that kind of thing. But with Hulk, like as soon as Banner teleports basically, or kind of experiences this vision, it's just like fire, and it's just, you know, screaming and like nuclear bombs falling, you know, and all this kind of stuff, or whatever the case is. And then it's just, then like you see it, right? Like you see this version of himself, you know, this maybe he's like mostly, you know, shrouded in darkness until he turns around and looks at Bruce, right? And then just like he's looking directly at him and he's like, I become you, like you become me, that kind of a thing. But it's just like this great big huge hulking guy who's just in total control over dystopia and like dominates the wills of humans, right? They don't have anywhere to go or nothing they can do. They just do whatever he tells them to. To me, that's like the worst version. That's like the worst possible future for Banner, right? Because Banner's largely a pacifist, right? He's a guy who doesn't really want to fight. And even in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, in the first Avengers film, he referred to the Hulk as the other guy, right? Like he was more or less scared of the Incredible Hulk. You take the Incredible Hulk as Bruce Banner was afraid of him, and you take the Incredible Hulk as somewhat being a relatively gentle creature until you piss him off. And then you take him and you amp him up, right? You amp his power up almost in the extreme, right? To a much higher level. And then you make him power hungry, you make him insane, and you make him evil. It's the most horrifying future that Bruce Banner could envision for himself, right? His Hulk persona run amok, because then it begs the question, you know, how does all that work with regards to Bruce? Is he like a slave in his own mind and his intelligence is just being used? There's some cool elements about Maestro that not even Marvel has explored over the years. And so, you know, you take a guy like that, you put him in the MCU, I can promise you, he'll crush pretty much everybody. But the important thing to also understand here is the Marvel Cinematic Universe roster is expanding, right? So with the introduction of Moon Knight also comes the god Khonshu, who Moon Knight basically praises. You've got Bast, who's the Panther god of Black Panther, that could possess him at any point in time. And then you got Black Panther running around with the power of a god. You have Adam Warlock, who's not too far off, who's wildly powerful in his own right. You still got Thanos probably hanging around there somewhere. They can just use him, right? They can just snatch him out of time and call it a day, or whatever the case is for him, you know, because the rumor is it's not the last of him. But there are characters who are coming up on the scene, right? They have Fantastic Four coming, which means that they're going to have Franklin Richards somewhere along the line, a little reality warping kid. Maestro will get crushed by him. You've got the X-Men, you've got Deadpool coming, so there's going to be some powerhouse characters coming to the Marvel Cinematic Universe that by the time they introduce Maestro, if they do, could definitely give him a run for his money, right? And could certainly present a scenario where the fight between them and Maestro dwarfs the fight between Thanos and the Avengers, right? Because Maestro is a one-man army. This guy's a wrecking crew, right? That's literally all he is, right? He just exists to destroy things, and it's cool. It's just this awesome concept. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments section, right, about Maestro in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because I think in a lot of ways there's only maybe a couple characters right now in the MCU that could be brought back, really only one character that could be brought back and used, and that would be Thanos, right? If they found a way to return him and then basically put him on a collision course with Maestro, he's the only one that I could think of that could go toe to toe. And how cool would it be, right? If like Maestro shows up, the Avengers are panicking, he's just like crushing everybody. It's like, what do we do? It's like, we do the only thing we can do. We go and get Thanos, and they basically find a way to free Thanos. They bring him back and they have him fight Maestro. And it's just this this colossal battle. How many of you guys would want to see that? Thanos in the Marvel Cinematic Universe versus Maestro Hulk. How many of you guys want to see that? Because I know I would. Oh, I'd pay all the money in the world to go see that. It'd be amazing. But anyway, guys, we're gonna go ahead and bring this video to an end. If you are new here to Comics Explained, make sure you guys hit the sub button to become part of the Rob Corps. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like, and I will catch you all later. Peace.